are watching CIOTV by Enterprise IT World, a production of Accent Infomedia.
Having me. It has been a long time. You have done a fantastic job. Enterprise IT World is a great, credible voice in an IT industry. I've left IT for a very, very long time, okay. Sanjay said that I'm different role or something like that. Fundamentally, there hasn't been role change. I used to build things, I'm an engineer, I still build things. I used to fly aircrafts, I actually fly more aircrafts now, different kinds of aircrafts. When I met Sanjay for the first time, I had 8 patents, I had more 8 patents. Only thing which has changed is I used to be a very busy person, now I have ample amount of time. I have actually too much time. I don't work for more than 4 to 5 hours. Cron AI is just one of the companies. I don't talk about companies where I have been on the board, because when you're on the board, you just advise executives and you hope that they listen to you and they do things which you are telling them. 99.9% times they don't do that. So I have to be very, very careful. Laws in this country are becoming far more strict. So I keep myself away from this thing. And by the way, there's no pride. There's no pride in that. I think all of you guys who are building things, who are running large, small, medium organizations, who are procuring key technologies, you guys deserve way more accolades. But this is kind of my resume. I take pride that I'm building Vishwasutra along with Chief of Indian Air Force. Both of us are passionate about aerospace and defense, and we think that in industry, Indian ecosystem can be way larger than that. So that's a passion we are trying to build. Time will tell whether that will happen or not. And I'm a co-founder of a university, so that's a passion. But this is not about that. So Sanjay told me to talk about AI, but I said, look, everyone talks about AI, so what's a big deal? Then he said that, talk about examples which you can feel, examples which have created new paradigms, a kind of paradigms, specifically large companies, and I'm talking about very, very large companies in excess of $80 billion net revenues or valuation kind of stuff. They have not been able to think. So these are 4 impressions. I'll give 4 impressions. I'm not going to take much time. I'll just quickly do a closure in about 15 minutes. I'm an aviator, so I run by the clock, okay? So I'll do it in 15 minutes, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer that. I've been also told not to go very, very deep since I'm an engineer. My area of research and the code which I'm writing is on neuroplasticity, which is creating an empathetic code where you combine nature with nurture. So you write futuristic code in a sense so that machines can have empathy. I'm not going to talk much about it, but if somebody is interested in that particular thing, they can read my paper, or they can discuss with me. But the story actually began 18 years back, and I wrote this particular code. And by the way, this code has actually given me tons of money, tons and tons of money. I'm not allowed to take the name of the company because that paid. So by the way, my current wealth comes from royalties, okay? That is how I earn money. It's the cheapest way of earning money, okay? But I take a lot of pride in that, okay? That means I write a patent. I don't have a heart of an entrepreneur. Neither I want to work very hard. I'm like a lazy bum. So I basically take that patent. I create an applied engineering out of it, and then these large companies and their large R&Ds, they have been struggling to solve that particular problem for a long time. And I do a very, very hard negotiation with them. Hey, at least give me, if you're selling 1 motor, per cycle you give me $1, and this is get off. Per cycle, who will give you that money? Sometimes they get, they get away, sometimes I get away. But this code has given me tons of money. And when I wrote this particular code, I basically converted mathematical vectors, which can create some basic chatter, which happens in internet, 18 years back, and convert them into tangible benefits. And I took this very, very simple example that if somebody walks into a Brooks Brother kind of a store, and at that time Brooks Brother was a great brand to wear suits and all that for very successful people. And if I understand that conversation, and if I convert that mathematical vector, convert that conversation into a mathematical vector, and then take that particular mathematical vector and say that, hey, by the way, this customer can actually buy a BMW, and since this customer has bought a BMW, he can actually buy a $5 million apartment. $5 million apartment in New York was a big deal. 18, 20 is still a big deal, but at that time it was really a big deal, a condo over there. People are going to love that. And then other use cases came. But this is the use case which I actually sold. It was such a simple use case which I brought out of code. And I sold this to, can't name that company. You can guess it. It's world's largest software company. And they made tons of money out of it. And today it is a smaller part of what they call as Gen AI. Okay. So this was 18 years back. Things have changed dramatically now. This is the data which we have. And this is the data which is relatively old data. I have not updated this. I wanted also to be very, very sure that data today is way more than this particular data. And still most companies, specifically services companies, which should be far ahead in their game in terms of conversion of this particular data into tangible revenue and revenue with a positive EBITDA hasn't happened yet, okay? Still there is a question mark on marketing budgets. Still there is a question mark on advertisement budget. Still there is a question mark on digital marketing, business use cases. We all get away with that. I also get away during my heydays. But it's easier now. It's easier. And I will leave this particular thought that you guys need to seriously think about how in the consumption and internet consumption space, these very, very smart unicorns globally are able to attack these customers and convert them into customers. They don't know how to make margins out of them, but you guys know how to make margins. But if you can learn what they are doing, you are sitting on a gold mine. And that makes me and provokes me to make this statement. Look, we can say all other things, this is my brand and this is my value and all that stuff. I used to do that the same thing. But the only differentiation and everything stops with customer experience today. Everything. Because supply chains are becoming very similar, if not same. Regulations, the market has been regulated so much, there's nothing more to regulate. So it's pretty much a level playing field, so it's experience. And there, when Sanjay told me, I thought it is worth talking about AI, because AI will help us to achieve that purpose. How do you give that very, very unique experience, very, very insightful experience through this zettabyte of data which is currently available? How do you basically take that particular data? How do you carve that? And this is little bit something, and I'm assuming that everyone is from information technology and cyber and security and all this. Sometimes we get so much consumed in the discussions of Gen AI and data lakes and ERPs and this and that, that we actually forget that what real customer experience is and how do you create that particular insight. And companies who have not thought through that, they have an advantage today because they have this flat layer of data and they can do things without creating this very, very sophisticated architectures today. So I thought it's worth talking about this particular purpose because it's very practical, it is very implementable, and hopefully it will provoke you to think. Now, 4 impressions. Okay. These are first disclosures. I scouted these founders, except one set of founders. All are older than me. Okay. All of them are from hardcore. They are not software or SaaS companies. So I'm giving you very, very rare examples of courage and appetite for a manufacturing company, like a motor company, or a space company, or an aerospace company, and how these guys are creating intelligent companies. And these are the 4 impressions. I'll spend roughly about 2 minutes on each of these companies. It is all available in public, and if you are curious, then you can talk to me. First company is Chara. Chara was actually incubated out of Indian Institute of Science. All 3 founders, they were doing very well in their career. All of them were doing very well in their career. All of them, no, 2 of them were outside of India in the United States. One person is basically inventor of the motor, which Reva has used, and before 2 other motors, which Kirloskar has used. Okay, he's a veteran in that. And 3 of them came together, and they basically challenged McKinsey's of the world and all the large, big industrial houses of the world, Tata's, Reliance, etc., that these guys talk about China Plus, but what they are actually doing about it, what exactly is happening about in the ground in terms of, it's a boardroom discussion, pretty slides. So they actually thought that you can make a lot of money in China Plus by creating intelligent motor, which is rare earth free, okay? That means you don't have to use material which actually comes from China. And by the way, anything which is in motion, whether it is mixer and grinder, whether it is your car, any kind of a car, whether it is the wings of an aircraft, etc., most of us are dependent upon a supply chain which resides out of India. China is just an example. So they said, look, we are going to find that. I'm not going to talk about the geopolitics of it. I'm going to talk about what they have really done. So they have created this, what they call a switch reluctance motors. I don't know how many of you are from a manufacturing background, so I'll not go deep. In a nutshell, they are saying, and they have created this, and their customers are Tatas of the world and Teslas of the world. The company has been incubated it is less than 4 years. They'll touch 4 years. Now they have a big factory in Pina. They have created an intelligent motor, which basically provides things like noise, vibration, torque, etc., which results in a speed and efficiency based upon the data which it actually continuously collects out of the energy source, which can be a battery or it can be kerosene if it's an aircraft, and how consumer is using it. And the biggest customer now they are getting, which goes to the theory, is actually insurance companies, because insurance companies don't have that particular data. How you have used your car, how you're used. So they have actually opened an appetite for a space manufacturing or satellite manufacturing company, because insurance of those are not even available in India, even if for the ISRO guys, to even a mixer and grinder. So they're opening, so most of these insurance guys, so they're saying, hey, back off. First, we have to really address our addressable market. So this is one example. This is an example, a machine which they have created, the data which resides outside the machine, which actually comes through the machine using customer experience which they have combined it not only to increase the efficiency of the vehicle or the machine or whatsoever they are using, but also created a cross-pollination of how big an addressable market can be, which is insurance. So that's the first impression. Second is Peer Robotics. Now, Peer Robotics was created out of IIT Delhi. I basically spinned off that particular company to Connecticut. The reason why I spinned off to Connecticut, because robotics is still very nascent in India, because they have created heuristic robotics. That means, before I start, they have created robots only for SME industry, because that's a huge industry. And they said that that actual labor arbitrage, the actual labor requirement which is required for the owner of a small medium enterprise is way more important than the large company, because large company can pay good sum of money, they can compete in the market. But this guy who's actually working with like 20 employees, or sometimes even 5 employees, creating a very, very niche kind of thing. So they created a heuristic robot, which in a simple way means that the robot trains on its own. Okay. Second thing, it doesn't require greenfield operations or greenfield kind of thing, hey, scrap everything, remove your conveyor, remove this thing. It basically adapts based upon where your aisle is, if there's an aisle, how you have stacked your inventory, etc., etc. It also learns from the person who's using. So owner can basically go and say that, hey, you have to use this path, you have to pick it from there, and it learns on its own, and it learns the exceptions also. And this company is now today based out of Connecticut. They are selling robots to 2 countries, apart from US, Germany, Japan. So Indian guys, so it's technically not an Indian company, but still an impression. Heuristic robots, very simple. You go to their website, you see this particular company. Again, similar kind of thing, 3 to 4 years of incubation. It has taken 3 to 4 years incubation, but he was doing work, his lot of work he was doing with Professor Saha at IIT Delhi, who's an authority on robotics, and a lot of things when he was doing his PhD and masters at Maryland universities. A lot of work has come from there, but this company, they're selling robots. It's a profitable company. It's a profitable startup. This is the third company. Now, I'm a little bit biased towards this company because they are addressing a problem which has got huge implications on this. This is BUS, incubated out of IIT Delhi. People who are there in Delhi may have seen their bikes, but it's a kick-ass company. They have created machine, which is for the gig workers, people who do the delivery, for them only. That means it has been designed where they keep the phone, how do they balance, where they put the load and all that stuff. And it actually generates data, which is an experience. First, it gives you an experience, okay? But it generates intelligence. So peer robotics was all about AI. Everything, it's heuristic. Everything is, it's like intelligent machine in its own. It's a purest classic form of artificial intelligence. This is an indirect use case, something similar to Chara, and that's where most of the use cases will come in most of the industries. What they are doing, the agronomics of design for a particular customer is basically enabled through machine learning. So that's what they are doing. So they're saying, hey, this particular person, how does he use this? Where does he stops? How many times he changes the battery? Which route he's taking? Which is the smallest route? How much speed he's taking? And then they take a manual kind of thing. So they basically do an impression learning also in a sense that, hey, have you taken water? How many times you have taken water? Do you feel fatigue? Are you earning? The idea is that, or the objective, the current objective of the company is that a typical gig worker in a Delhi NCR and similar in Bangalore, the money which they take every day ranges from 800 rupees to 1,200 rupees. They want to double that. And then they want to do that 3x. They have been able to do it in Delhi, but they have not scaled that well. They are opening a factory in Manesar. But this is also an example where the data is combined. That is the physical data where they basically ask the user. But the agronomics of the design of the machine, how he is using the machine, that basically, Chara was a different one because machine was generating data. It is how he's using that particular machine, how much he stops, what is the map, what is physical attributes, weight, etc., they do that. So most use cases will come which are very similar to in automobile industry, in a consumer product industry, etc., This is me. This is the fourth impression. Sometimes we are too ahead of times. Again, I can't name, they were my previous employer. This was the last employment which I did, and after that I said, I got my gray hairs, by the way, from there. And I said that, look, maybe I'm ahead of time. Maybe I have already done this journey because as a founding leadership of this company, we took the company from $0 to $1 billion. But there were a lot of experimentations which were encouraged but were not allowed to implement. And one of the experimentation was empathy towards cabin crew, empathy towards passengers who really require help. And my thesis was machines can do a better job than what people can do because fatigue management in aviation, and especially in the airline industry, is huge. It was highly appreciated. It won every award which was possible globally for any robotic engineer or something like that. But it was not implemented. I was told to shelf it. It's a different matter that this is the 8th largest sale I have done for a patent. And there are two companies. One is a Japanese company, one is a Singapore company. They have bought this particular patent, but they're using this particular robot for something different. One is in a hardcore construction space, and the second one is in the service industry, which is the healthcare industry kind of thing. But idea progressed from the first, that is codification codification of emotion. I wanted to bring that to the physical space of empathy. I really wanted to bring the physical space of empathy. I failed market failed me, depending upon how many drinks I have taken. Sometimes, you will get a different answer for that. But I think the world we are moving, empathy will be the key. How you write the code, how you build an organization, specifically how you write the code. And I will explain that. If there is any differentiation which will be there between two companies, irrespective of size, it will be empathy. How much empathy you have for your customers, how much empathy you have for your employees, how much empathy you have for your machines, buildings, etc., how much empathy you have people who use those machines, how much empathy you have built in your code, which is your systems, whether it is UX or how you have structured your data, this thing. And it would be personalization on steroids. Trust me, it will be on personalization. Just if everything is same, including the pricing of a particular unit of a product or a services, just on the virtue that somebody is providing a little bit better experience, they can sweep the market under your feet. That is going to happen. And that's the place, my friends, AI, not the Gen AI, the deep learning part of AI will play a very, very important role. The models which are there. And within those particular models, the visual models, the LVMs will play a way more important role because it will be impossible to hire those kind of engineers at a scale by every organization. So simplification code has to be written. The most simplification code which is there, we have great cameras, we have great sensors. Almost every company which is a brick and mortar company, they have that. We are sitting on that very, very important data. The simplicity of the model or the complexity of the model, depending upon how you want to see it, but the code has to be simple. Somehow we have to assimilate that particular aspect, then getting into the complexity of the code which comes from text. So the physical attribute, which I jumped the gun because I was too ahead of the market, I think models will make it far more simple through images, different kinds of images, through the physical attributes, and ultimately it will go into this thing. People who are into high-tech manufacturing, digital clone has become a part of the quality manual today. It actually has become. You go to HAL, I will strongly encourage to go to HAL and see how these guys are using digital clone and how they are pushing everyone to use digital clone for that. As I said, empathy, and I mean true empathy, it has to come from here. While I'm saying that, I'm also trying to break next 14 years of my life, if I live that long. I want to codify empathy, and that's where the neuroplasticity comes. So I'm writing, I'm converting anyone who's a neurosurgeon here, but I would strongly encourage, because it's very simple to learn. Neuroplasticity is one of the simple applied sciences to read. It actually makes sense because we understand our body, and it's very, very interesting. And it's very, very simple to codify, to create those use cases. So I'm trying to create pathways where how do you nurture, and it's as simple as that. If you put a baby, and that's where I will pause. If you put a baby in a group, among group of babies, and that's how I started, and if one baby cries, everyone starts crying. Okay, because nature and nurture, they are connected. And the same way codes are going to be done. Only thing is that we have to be very careful with biases. And that's the area of research which also I'm doing, that how do you make sure that the biases don't happen? How do you make sure? And that's where humans will play a very, very important role. But as enterprise IT, all of you, in enterprise IT, one advantage we have, we have multiple systems, and multiple systems have multiple texture, and these textures have different dimensions of data. So you don't have to worry about biases if you connect the model through different textures very correctly, because they will cross-pollinate. And you can actually write a very, very conservative algorithm, which will say that, hey, if there is a mismatch, or if there is, then this particular thing vetoes everything, or by the way, I will not allow this to happen, manual intervention is required. So that advantage, I will urge all of you guys should take that particular advantage, and if you have started the journey, do that. AI is way bigger than Gen I. And thank you for listening to me. That's my body of work. Thank you.